Hello everybody. So in this screencast we're going to look at how can we integrate networking into our iOS app. So we can integrate it using the core networking libraries that iOS provides, but we'll be reinventing the wheel. Let's use a library, a popular library, to enable us to do that. That's why we are looking at CocoaPods. So let's look at CocoaPods. Look for a library called AlamoFire. And click on AlamoFire. And you can see this is a very popular library. There are 42 million downloads of that library. There are more than 600,000 apps that use this library. But you have to keep in mind that these libraries are continuously being updated to catch up with the changes in the iOS SDK. So the iOS is continuously changing also. So you could see here, for example, that it says that they have a beta version, which is version 5. And they are saying that this documentation is out of date for version 5. But anyhow, we'll look at this library. This library will enable us to make these HTTP requests. And we'll look at how to integrate it into your project and how to make maybe let's make our first HTTP request, right? Using an app. So we'll go to the GitHub for AlamoFire. And basically what I want to do is integrate this library into my project. So to do that, let's make the browser a little bit smaller, right? And to do that, I need to create a project in Xcode. So I'll create an Xcode project. Okay, I'll go File, New Project. Okay, and single application. We'll call it Networking Demo. Click on Next. Save it in this folder. And we're here. Now I will close that project. Okay, and then open the folder where that project is. Here we are. And then I'll do command space. We'll open up the Spotlight search. I'll go to terminal and open up the terminal. Right, so here's my terminal. Okay, so I have the folder where the project is, and I have the terminal open. I'll go to CD, and then I'll drop the folder, press enter, and then I could see the folder where the project is. So you see here, it has only a directory and the file. I have a directory and the file. Okay, by typing ls, I'm listing my ls minus al shows me the directory contents. Excellent. So now what I need to do is to create a pod file. How do I do that? I say pod init. Pod init creates the pod file. You could see the pod file here, right? And then I want to open that pod file. I'll open it using Sublime Text. You can open it using Text Edit, but I'll use the Sublime Text. Here we are. Okay. Now I need to know what to put here so that to enable this pod, right? So I'll go down here in the GitHub repo or GitHub documentation, and it says that this is the newer version, which is the beta version. Okay, so I'll copy this and I'll put it here. Pod AlamoFire version 5.0.0 beta. Okay, I'll click on save. I saved it. You don't have to use Sublime Text. You can use any text editor. Open with Text Edit, for example, right? So I added it to my pod file. Close the pod file now. I'll just go back to the terminal and say pod install. Okay. And pod install is trying to install. I'll have to wait until I get back the prompt, and then there is no red text. This means we're good to go. Now I will open the workspace, not the project. I'll open the workspace, and AlamoFire now is integrated. Okay. So AlamoFire is now integrated. So now I would like to make a request. So I don't need the folder. I don't need the folder. I don't need the terminal anymore. Okay. I have my Xcode, and I need the documentation for let's make the Xcode take most of the screen, and then we have our browser here. Okay. Very nice. So now I'd like to make the first request. So now when you look here at the top, you will see they have documentations. Let's say usage, making a request. Okay. So I want to make a request. So let's say to make a request, this is what you do. Cool. So now I need to import, and then I do that to make a request. Excellent. So let's go back here. I'll go here. The view controller that we have, I need to import AlamoFire. So I'll say import AlamoFire. Excellent. Right. See, in the old version, they are saying to use the API, you type AlamoFire.request, right? But the problem is that with the new version, they changed it. So I did some homework. But when you say AlamoFire, it doesn't give you AlamoFire. But if you do AF, which is the short notation that they are using now in the new library, dot request, okay, and basically I want to make a request to the simple apps doctor API. So let's do this kind of request, okay, dot response, which is a string response. I want a string response, okay. And you can see here that there is a block that gets executed when that request is done. So basically, when you make a request, that request schedules a child thread that sends that request, and then when the response comes back, it goes and executes this thread. So basically, all I'm going to do is just I'm going to press enter, and then for the data response, I'll just type response, and I have my request and response here. So basically, I can check to see if the response is valid or not valid. So I could say response dot, I could say if response dot is successful, response dot result dot is success, right? If it's successful, else it's not successful. So if it's successful, I'll say print successful. Okay, I could say success, and then otherwise it's an error. There's an error. Okay, else there's a failure. Okay, so now basically what is happening now is that you are making a request, af.request, and that request by default is a get request. There are other ways to make a post request, but it's by default a get request. Goes to the simple.api the appsdoctor.com / simple.php, and then basically it goes, and when it comes back, I'm telling it that the response is of type string. So basically it will take whatever the response is, the body of the response, and change it to a string, and then I could check to see if it's successful or not. What are the different types of responses? There are a lot of them. So basically you could tell it that it's of type JSON, a type string, type data, meaning it's serialized data, or it could be just a general response, and then you go and serialize it to whatever you want it to do. Okay, so basically I am using this kind of request, AlamoFire.request. You pass a URL, and then you say .response string, and then you get your response, and I'm printing the if it's successful, I print the value. So basically let's go back here. If it's successful, I can print the value. How do I print the value? I say print response dot result dot string, or result dot value, and you could see that the result dot value is an optional. See, it's an optional string, so I'll just put an exclamation mark to unwrap it. Okay, so now when I run this, let's see what happens. So basically it's an HTTP request, right? Run it, and we go back to the emulator once it's built, and we are here, and it went through, but there is a problem. Very good. So basically when you look here, if you scroll up a little bit, you will see that security, the app transport security has blocked the clear text HTTP resource load since it is insecure. Temporary exceptions can be configured via the app info.plist file. Excellent. So basically what it's telling you, that it blocked that request because it's trying to access HTTP, meaning HTTP is not an encrypted request, meaning that the request and the response are not encrypted, and that is not secure. So Apple right now requires you to, as developer, to conform to the Apple Transport Security Policy. So if you are going to use HTTP, not HTTPS, to secure your traffic, you have to mention explicitly in the manifest file, which is the info.plist, that you are allowing such kind of transport to happen. So we'll go here just for the time being, and this is your info.plist file. Go to the end of it, click on the plus sign here, it adds another row, and I'll click app transport security settings. Here it is. So basically this is the app transport security settings. I'll open up this this triangle. It opens up here, and then I click on the plus sign now, so you add something under it. Allow arbitrary loads. Do that and make it yes. Okay, so now we are telling Apple that I am allowing HTTP requests. HTTP requests, which are clear text requests, they are not encrypted. I'm allowing it. Now when you run this again, after we did this, we run this again, and then boom, something happened. The request went through, and it says that this response is from simple.php, which is basically what you would get if you make a GET request to that URL. So if we go here, if I go to Postman, here's Postman. Here we are. And we make a GET request to that URL. Here it is. If we make a GET request to that URL, click send. Sorry, it's a GET request. We made a GET request. Here it is, to that URL. And basically we are getting back, this response is from simple.php. And basically that's, we are getting back, this response is from simple.php. So we have made our first request and we received the response. And that response is a string. And in the next video, we'll look at how we can pass parameters, get and post. How can we make GET requests and pass parameters, and how can we make POST requests and pass parameters. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.